Hi, thanks for joining me. I'm Chris Maragkakis of Simply Be Wellbeing. I'm a women's life coach, podcaster and speaker, and wellbeing provider. I'm also a mindfulness and meditation teacher. Welcome to Mindful Mutterings. Please like, share and subscribe, and thanks for listening. Hi, thanks for joining me. This week I want to talk to you about how being active and proactive are really useful strategies for your wellbeing toolkit. We've all heard how important exercise is for our physical bodies, and we know that when we exercise we produce endorphins that help us to feel happier. But movement can actually be used in a more applied way to help us to manage things like anxiety, low self-esteem, overwhelm and body image. So let's take these things one at a time. So when we're feeling anxious, the thoughts tend to come from us, from living in the future. That's what causes it. It's this worrying about what might happen, what someone might say, things that we can't control because they've not yet happened. But while we're focused on that and we don't address those issues and we don't manage it, the adrenaline and the fear grows and grows and grows. And then the idea behind the adrenaline is to give us the strength to either run away or fight the situation. And this is a prehistoric response and weirdly has not changed the more humanity has evolved. So when a lot of adrenaline is being produced, it takes a lot out of the body. And so to preserve our well-being, or to try and keep the body at its optimum performance, the body begins to shut down what it thinks are processes that we no longer need. Now, unfortunately, these processes include problem solving. And the issue with our problem solving capabilities working less efficiently is that, of course, we find it harder to rationalise our thoughts and feelings and bring ourselves back to the present moment where we can regain some balance. And so the problem with that is then that we become even more fearful, we worry even more adrenaline is produced unless it builds and builds and builds, and unless we manage it, we end up not only living in a heightened state of anxiety, but our physical well-being is compromised, and we can even risk adrenal burnout. So one of the strategies that is really useful for managing anxiety or a panic attack or anything that is making us feel out of control and overwhelmed is to get up and move. Even walking from one room to the next will make a massive difference, because what it does is it forces the brain to think about something else, and it needs to tell our body to move, and just the act of moving then changes the chemical composition of what's going on in our brain. And it's a really useful way of creating a bit of space for us to start taking control of our thoughts. And even if we can extend that a little bit more, so if we've only got the time to just maybe walk in our home, that's fine. Get up, go to the next room, make a cup of tea, do something physical to change the mindset. Even better, go out for a walk. Even better still, go out for a walk in nature, because it's been proven so many times that once we surround ourselves with nature, we can ground. The chemicals that trees give off help us to heal and manage and self-regulate. And so the more proactive we can be about this, the quicker we can learn to shut down the feelings of anxiety and overwhelm. And once we start to do that, we can then think clearer, and we can start to manage our own thoughts and problem solve effectively. And then when we come to something like low self-esteem, that often, not always, but often can go hand in hand with low body image. But even as separate triggers, they can be managed effectively through being active. So essentially, to build self-esteem, we need to foster a recognition and appreciation of our own abilities. And to boost our body image, we need to learn how to appreciate, respect and love our body for what it gives us and what it's capable of. So using activities that start slowly and gently but give us an opportunity for growth, an opportunity to build strength, agility and flexibility with a route of progression, can be really, really helpful here. So for example, walking slowly is an ideal way to start to become more active. While we're doing that, as discussed with the anxiety and the overwhelm, it creates space in the brain for us to be able to make sense of our thoughts and feelings. Also, it strengthens and tones muscles, boosts our heart function. If the heart's working really well, we've got more oxygen going to the brain. If we've got more oxygen in the brain, we can think clearer and we can verbalise better. So we can communicate clearer our needs and our hopes and desires. It keeps our joints mobile. It can help us to manage weight. and can even be combined with jobs to help us manage our time more effectively. Then over time, we could maybe start to walk a little bit faster or choose a less flat route to build in some progress. And then maybe we could move into fast walking or jogging if that's something that we're interested in. And this all contributes to a general state of well-being. And if we choose to mindfully notice the way our body is moving, how it uses the muscles and the way it supports us, we can start to foster appreciation for it as we begin the work alongside the exercise to change our beliefs and how we identify with our body. So we have like a two-pronged attack. We're being active and physical, and that's helping us to become mindfully aware of how amazing our body is and what we're capable of, and testing boundaries. But also we can do the work on the mindset around how we identify. And then as we become more comfortable with this activity, then maybe the idea of adding a swim or moving into yoga or Pilates doesn't seem so alien. Maybe Tai Chi or Qi Gong may appeal as well. And these kind of activities have the added bonus of helping us to slow down our mind as we exercise our body. So this can help us to manage overwhelm. It can be a really effective strategy for managing ADHD, because often for people in a state of overwhelm or anxiety or with behaviours like ADHD, it's very difficult to meditate because we're just all over the show and the brain is like a box of frogs. For most people, the brain is like a box of frogs, but obviously when we're in a heightened state, it becomes even more difficult. And so activities like this that allow us to activate the parasympathetic system and calm our minds down without us having to focus on anything other than the movement we're making with our body is a really, really useful tool for coping. And then, of course, the added bonus of movement is that it produces all these lovely endorphins, as I mentioned earlier, and these help us to feel good about ourselves. They raise our vibration and they lighten our mood, which then makes it more easy, if we're being mindfully aware, to start looking at the positives that we can see about our situation or about our body or about our coping skills. And that then helps us to move forward with a more positive mindset, and we get this really lovely, helpful, proactive cycle of movement, mindset, confidence, resilience, movement, mindset, confidence, resilience. And that's how we then start to change our views on our self-image and our self-esteem. And then should we want to work further on managing our mindset, we can then use the activity or exercise to help us move outside of our comfort zone, which then continues to help us build this resilience and become more confident. And as we're fostering an appreciation of what we're capable of doing and how we've grown and how we can now stretch ourselves, and while it's doing all that, quieten the constant chatter in our brain, we might be able to then start to see where we've taken on too much, or maybe we can see where we need to learn how to self-regulate or set and reinforce effective boundaries, or maybe delegate or manage our time more effectively to manage this overwhelm or to help us thrive. And then we come to how we become comfortable with the situation, because the more comfortable we become with the activity, the more confident we are. And the more confidence we have, the more we believe in our ability to cope, which is all essentially what resilience means. And then the more resilient we feel we are, and as I said, that is literally just knowing that you will survive. It doesn't have to be pretty. You might be hanging on by your fingernails, but we have this understanding that we will cope with things. Then the more willing we are to start to try different things, and that then helps to build more resilience, and that builds our confidence, and that builds our self-esteem, and that improves how we show up in the world, and that then improves how we view ourselves, and that makes it easier for us to set boundaries, which makes our life more controllable, which means we have less anxiety and overwhelm. And so you can see how all these little tiny strategies start to layer up, and all of a sudden we've moved into a very different mindset and are living our life very differently. So then, of course, being proactive is an enormously useful tool for managing well-being, because we tend to feel overwhelmed because there seems to be too much to do, or we feel that there's too much we have to deal with. And this may actually be an accurate representation of our life, in which case the only thing that we can do is proactively manage it. So being proactive means to create or control a situation. And to apply this to our life means that we become mindful of how we're feeling and what might have triggered those emotions of overwhelm or stress. Then we can calmly and logically begin to problem solve and search for acceptable solutions. Now, maybe this looks like asking for help, and that's something that lots of us aren't very good at, but maybe that becomes an area that we can work on. Or maybe it's because it's always assumed that we're happy to do something and we need to learn how to start setting boundaries and politely and non-confrontationally learn how to say no. Or maybe we need to look at our time management, or maybe just find labour-saving solutions to help us complete the tasks. It may even be something as simple, or that we need to do something as simple as to how we can use the technology that we have, even just in our phones, to help us plan, make lists, find information, and keep track of what we're doing. And then we can start to see how we can take back control of our life, because when we feel in control, we feel less overwhelmed, we feel less anxious, we feel better about ourselves, we feel more confident. And one of the biggest causes of anxiety and overwhelm is not dealing with things as they arise, constantly putting things off because maybe they're difficult or they're boring or they're unpleasant. And all that actually does is just bring about more issues that then make us feel stressed and overwhelmed and under pressure. And so it's much better if we can find a way to deal with them promptly, or if we really are struggling with them or we don't understand what we need to do, then it's about asking someone for help. And asking for help is not failure. It's managing the resources around us effectively. If we're running a business and we have all these resources around us that we're not using, then we're managing our business poorly. So why would it be any different in our life? If we're surrounded by a good support network, why would we not tap into that network at times of need? We would do it for them. We would do almost anything for our friends. So we have to start accepting that maybe the best thing for us to do, the most empowering thing for us to do sometimes, is to actually ask for help. And another way of being proactive and managing our well-being is to look at what we actually want to achieve in a day or a week, a month, whatever, and break it down into small, manageable chunks, so that we've got a clear list of tasks that then we can then prioritise, and we can see the stuff that needs to be done, the stuff that we'd like to get done, and the stuff that we can bump if we need to, because that gives us the best chance of achieving it. And as we achieve things, no matter how small, it sends a reward message to our brain, and that's what also helps to improve our confidence and self-esteem. And in doing that, it then becomes easier to reduce our feelings of anxiety and overwhelm, and our self-esteem grows and it responds. We tend to stand straighter, we look people in the eye, and that changes how people perceive us and how we can perceive our body image as well. So that's essentially what I want to say to you. So being active and proactive are really useful tools. You can see best how to apply them to your life once you start to become aware, and use mindfulness for this. Just start to become aware of the thoughts that are causing you problems, the activities that are making you feel overwhelmed, the view that you have of yourself and maybe your body, and see where you can start to put these little tweaks in place so that they can start to layer and create space and change mindset and help you to move through these emotions so that you can become empowered and start to live a life with confidence. So I hope this has been a really helpful guide on how being active and proactive can really help you move your life forward. As always, if you've got any questions or you want to get in touch, you can contact me via the website simplybe.org.uk. If you feel that now is the time for you to start your coaching journey, then please get in touch for a chat. There's no obligation. We have to have a chat to see if we can work together and whether this is the right place for you to be moving on in your life. And whatever you do, please take care of you and have a really good week. And I hope you'll join me for the next one next time. Thanks for listening. Bye.